Hello and welcome to NewsClick. One of the great little told and half forgotten stories of modern history relates to the horrific crimes against humanity perpetrated in Bangladesh during the freedom struggle of 1970-71 in the then East Pakistan by Pakistani military and intelligence agencies along with local collaborators and fundamentalist militias. Some international commentators have described the massacres in Bangladesh as the most systematic pogrom since the Nazi atrocities in Poland. Estimates vary from 200,000 to 3 million killed, and mass graves are being discovered in Bangladesh even today. Over the past almost 40 years, much of this has been glossed over, partly due to the protection extended by the US to its former allies in Pakistan, and partly to a conspiracy of silence by some powerful sections within Bangladesh. At last, after the previous elections brought Sheikh Hasina to power in Bangladesh, war crime trials have finally commenced in August this year. To discuss these trials and their implications, we have with us today Mr. Saiful Haq Omi, photographer and activist from Bangladesh. Welcome to NewsClick.
Thank you. Thank you, Ravi.
Please describe to us the scope of these trials and the crimes that they cover.
It has a lot of scope. What is happening now, if finally they do what they're saying they would do, it would cover a lot of criminals, it would take them under law. But what we see till now, it doesn't give us a lot of hope. Just, I believe 4 of them has just, till now, they have been arrested. Maybe few of them will be arrested in next few weeks. They are the number is pretty high. I mean, thousands of people you'd find as collaborators who are involved in all these crimes against humanity, which involve rape, killing, looting, and every other thing that happened in 1971. But it's a long process. The government is in power for almost 2 years and not much has happened. Hope is there. We see and we hope that things will go better.
Is there a commission of inquiry or an investigation panel which is going alongside the trials?
Yeah, there is a panel that has been set up, International War Crime Tribunal, and they are investigating it. And what we understand, that just to make sure that these guys, when the cases will go to the court, can't get out of it, they are trying to gather some evidence. But the people that they have arrested till now and will be arresting, hopefully, they are all pretty known as war criminals, as we call them, the Rajakars and Al-Badrs, because everyone knows what they did. What they need now at this level is hard evidence.
Right.
And there are millions of evidence lying everywhere in Bangladesh. As you said, mass graves are still you can find. The evidence is everywhere in Bangladesh. When we talk about Bangladesh, you talk about actually the war.
That's right.
It's very much alive in Bangladesh. It's a war that people hasn't talked about, but it's a war that is very alive in Bangladesh.
Right. Why have these trials become possible only now, almost 40 years after the crimes were committed?
I would say, politically speaking, I would say it's because Awami League has won finally with a majority of the seats, more than 2/3 majority. That's basically the reason it is happening now, like it or not. But what we saw in last 6-7 years, especially after 1999, with the rise of political Islam in Bangladesh, with bombing and all other things, we felt very deeply, and we all know these are the same people who did whatever happened in 1971. I mean, these are the collaborators. These are the people who actually are responsible. People were very, very frustrated, and they wanted to find a way to get out of all this. In Bangladesh, war, as I said, the liberation war is the center of everything till now. But people wanted to get out of all of it, and they voted in favor of a party whom is believed to be the party that can take care of the issue. We are pretty sure not the other parties would do it, and we are also not very sure how Awami League would do it. But for for definite reason, if someone does it, till now it would be Aumi League.
Now, the people who have been charged and brought to power, brought to trial, are also leaders of some of the main
opposition
parties.
Yes.
Tell us a little about that.
I mean, this has very much rooted with what happened back in 1971. These are the people who were part of the Jamaat Islami back then. These are the people who stood against the war. These are the people who collaborated against the war. So historically, they actually never believed in Bangladesh, never believed in a different state. And they always wanted to believe that there would be one state based in Islam, and that would be Pakistan. But what we see now is majority of the collaborators that are arrested till now are from Jamaat Islami, which is again the oppositional party in Bangladesh. But there are also many collaborators in also other parties. Also there are many big collaborators are there in BNP.
It would seem ironic and to some extent tragic also that although crimes against humanity in Bangladesh are now to be systematically brought into the open, the main perpetrators of these crimes inside the Pakistani military, the intelligence and the political leadership of that time, they are virtually immune. Now, is there any possibility or is some consideration being given to the possibility of conducting trials in absentia or doing some method by which these perpetrators are also brought to book?
From the people's perspective, everyone wanted it to happen like that. I would say that everyone wanted to see, even before the collaborators in Bangladesh are brought to justice, Pakistan would be the first one brought to trial. And we expected that to happen in that way. But after they started all this process back like 15 months ago, after people of Bangladesh started saying that it has to be like that, then the law ministers and few other ministers came to the press conference and very clearly said, this is not our agenda, which I think is a great shame for the nation. It is them who are primarily responsible, and it is them who has to be under every sort of things. So it is completely unacceptable. And from my own experience being in Pakistan, what I felt that what is happening till now in Pakistan has something to do with this. As a ruling class, I'm not sure whether they still think what happened in 1971 was unfair.
Sure.
So I would see that it was an opportunity for the activists, for the progressive people in Pakistan also to raise that issue in Pakistan and saying that it has to be done.
Is this issue, if not figuring in the trials, are these issues and these crimes at least going to figure in the tribunal and its investigations or not?
I don't think they will do it now, at least with Pakistan, especially with what, now the global politics is playing a big role here.
Sure.
Pakistan, the relationship it has with US, also the relationship between these three countries, Bangladesh, India and Pakistan, and everything is playing a role.
Right.
To be very honest, I don't expect that would happen pretty soon.
Right.
That's true.
Let me ask you a last question on the trial itself. How much assistance is Bangladesh getting from the international community, and in particular from the United Nations, who have otherwise been playing a big role in other similar war crimes and crimes against humanity trials at The Hague and so on?
As long as we saw from the news and media, they formally said they're in favor of it. That's what we know. But I'm not sure whether all the countries are in favor of it, especially few of them from the Middle East, who are historically very connected to Jamaat Islami, who are historically against Bangladesh freedom fight and all. I'm not sure whether they have a very strong position.
Anyone who has followed Bangladesh politics, especially in the last couple of decades, would be aware of the intense internal strife within the country, precipitated by fundamentalist forces, their armed militias, and so on, including attacks on Sheikh Hasina and attempted assassinations and so on, often under the protection of ruling circles and their allies. So with respect to that, what do you see as the implications of these trials, and how will that impact on domestic politics in general and on the role of the fundamentalist forces in particular?
I think it's a very important question as I would look at the issue. When we think about war crime tribunal, and many people think in that way also, that it has something to do with something that happened 40 years ago, but it's absolutely wrong. As a journalist, I had the chance of working on this rise of political Islam and bombing and everything else for more than 2 years. And what we saw from that time, beginning from 1999, the people who has been doing all these things, the bombing and the rise of political Islam, the fundamentalist Islam that we see now in Bangladesh, is very much linked with the very same people who has been the collaborators. They are from the same party. Sure. So if these war crime tribunal finally happens, hope it will not only solve something that happened 40 years ago. It's not just about justice, it's about the future of Bangladesh. Because if we can fight them now in a way that we have to identify them, not just enemies of the state, what also make them responsible for whatever has happened in last 10-15 years, then we have a big chance of going forward. And that is the biggest challenge, and that is the biggest hope, and that is the biggest thing that will happen to Bangladesh in a long time that we see.
Several international commentators have pointed to the immunity which these criminals have enjoyed in Bangladesh for so many years now, and that has in fact encouraged a culture of political violence and criminality, because people thought they could get away
with whatever they do.
With whatever they could do. Do you think this represents in some sense the last chance to restore this, and that if this opportunity is lost, maybe you'll never get another chance?
Yes, exactly. Again. A friend of mine wrote in an article, it is now or never, and I believe that very firmly. If we fail to do it this time, we'll fail forever, and I don't know what future we have in the coming years. So yes, it is an opportunity, and what we saw in last 35 years. See, if this nation, I mean, it took us almost 40 years, just not for the war crime tribunal, but to put them under law and justice, the killers of the father of the nation. Right. It took us 40 years, and it took Aomi League also to have 2/3 majority to deal with it. Correct. This is Bangladesh, and this has been happening, also political violence, and we see it from macro to micro, micro to macro level. It is happening everywhere, and this is probably the last chance Bangladesh will ever have in near future.
Thank you very much, Omi, for enlightening us.
Thank you.
On this complex issue, and one which has been hidden from the public gaze for so many years. Thank you once again.